Okay, next topic. This is a topic that is very near and dear to my heart. It's one of the reasons why I wanted to start this channel in the first place. It is something that I've seen happening in people and them vocalizing it in both my professional and personal life. And it is something that I have wrestled with myself when it comes to my own life and my own faith. And the topic is the idea of getting closer to God. Okay? Because we feel like we need to do more. We need to read our Bibles more. We need to attend church more or more consistently. We need to pray more. We need to do more service opportunities, whatever it happens to be. And I want to address that because I think there's a lot of shame that happens when we think and feel that about ourselves and our spiritual lives and our faith. And I also would say that it is not consistent with what the Bible tells us. Let's first take a look at John chapter 15. This is where Jesus is talking a lot to his disciples. There's a lot of red letters in this passage. For those of you who aren't aware, sometimes in Bibles they will put a lot of red lettering where it is Jesus speaking. Jesus talks about him being the vine and us being the branches. And that if we remain in him, then he will remain in us. And those of us who remain in him, believers, he will prune us so that we will produce more fruit. Now, notice he's not talking about any kind of degrees of being close to him or degrees of having faith in him. We either remain in him or we don't. We're either believers or we're not. We either trust him or we don't. There's no gradient here. It's either this or that. Okay? And also it points out that if we are believers, we're not the ones who change. It is him who changes us. It is him who prunes us. For further confirmation of that, just look at Romans 12:2. This is the verse that says, "Do not conform any longer to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind." And it goes a little bit further than that, but that's the basic statements, okay? Look at that real closely. I've heard a lot of people teach about this verse in a way that's like, it's not quite consistent with what it's actually saying, okay? And I'm throwing out a little bit of caution there because I recognize, again, I'm not a pastor or a biblical scholar. But if we take a look at that verse, okay, it says, "Do not conform any longer to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind." Notice it doesn't say, "but transform yourself by renewing your mind." It doesn't say that. If it were to say that, then that would suggest a much more active role on our parts in terms of our transformation. But it doesn't say that. It says, "be transformed by the renewing of our minds." What this suggests is a more passive posture on our parts. It is not us who is doing the transforming. It's God. And if you want even further confirmation, just look at what is probably one of my favorite verses of the entire Bible. This comes from the book of Galatians. Paul is writing to the Galatians. He says in Galatians 2, chapter 2, verse 20, "I have been crucified with Christ." Notice the past tense on that, by the way. He says crucified. It's already been done. He goes on, "It is no longer I who live, my selfish self. It is no longer I who lives, but Christ who lives in me." And what he's saying there is, for him, his identity is not Paul anymore. It is now Christ in Paul. And this verse applies to all of us. I am not Aaron. I am now Christ in Aaron. You are no longer your name. You are now Christ in your name, if you are a believer. And if Christ is in us, if we have him inside of us, And what Paul is saying is we are fused with the holy God. We are fused with him. In other words, you can't get closer to God. It is impossible. I'm going to repeat this as much as I need to. It is not possible for you to get closer to God. He is as close to you as he ever will be, and he is closer to you than anyone or anything ever could be. And this is part of the good news of the gospel. We don't have to get closer to God. The curtain was torn, the curtain that was that separated God and the Holy of Holies in the temple in Jerusalem from the rest of the world. That curtain got torn when Jesus died, and it unleashed the Holy Spirit onto the world. We are fused with Jesus Christ. And if we are fused with him, we don't need to get closer to him. It would be similar enough for me to say, I am married to my wife. I can't get more married to my wife. I am simply just married to her. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't things that we can't do to be more intentional, more engaged with the Lord. Because there are things that we can do. Prayer does help me to be more engaged with him, more in tune with him. Same thing with reading my Bible. Same thing with going to church. Same thing with singing songs or doing service opportunities. I'm not saying you can't be more engaged with him. I'm not saying you can't feel more in tune with him. Just like I can feel more engaged with my wife if I go on more dates with her. Or I feel like I'm more in tune, more up to speed with a friend when I spend time with them. Of course there are things that we can do to be more engaged with someone. Okay? But I can't be closer to my wife because I'm already married to her. I can't be closer with God because he is already in me. And that goes for you too. You don't need to try to be closer to him. You just need to remain in him. You need to rest in him. And as you rest in him, as you trust him, he will prune you. He will transform you. He will mature you. We simply need to respond to it. I say all of this because I simply want us to stop shaming ourselves so much for feeling like we're not doing enough to be with God. If there was anything that you could do to be closer to God, you wouldn't need Jesus. So rest in him. Trust him. Allow him to do that work in you. All you need to do is respond and be intentional. That's it for this topic. I hope this was helpful to you. God bless, and I hope you have a good rest of your day.